If you look up and down the AEW roster, I think there's one name in particular that everybody is waiting for to make a return. Everybody's excited for his return, and that is Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega's been out with diverticulitis, and he is now set to make his return to pro wrestling this year, going on into the early portion of 2025. But it won't be for All Elite Wrestling. It won't be for AEW, but instead for New Japan Pro Wrestling at Wrestle Dynasty. Why? I got the latest on that, and you're not going to believe the reason, the explanation that Kenny Omega gave to everybody as to why he chose New Japan over AEW. Also, AEW set to sign Speedball, Mike Bailey. Why? They have enough talent that they don't know how to book currently. We will go over that. WWE tried to get into the Hammerstein Ballroom, but AEW blocked them from booking the venue. And AEW cancels Collision on December 7th in Columbus, Ohio, for one very particular reason that the mainstream media, the IWC, the dirt sheets don't want to tell you. I got all the latest right here on today's Off the Script, and we will start with Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega was interviewed by Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful.com, and he gave a reason as to why he did not choose AEW to make his return, but instead New Japan Pro Wrestling. Here's the clip from the interview with Sean Ross Sapp, and then we'll come back and give our opinion on his ridiculous explanation.
And, I'm sure naturally the next question is, well, why not AEW first? That is the company that I helped create. That is the company that I'm contracted to. It makes sense. It's tough to answer because, why not AEW? There's nothing wrong with AEW at all. If you watch any of the episodes of our TV recently, there's just everything is flowing like clockwork right now. I feel like there's a spot for all of the hardworking men and women that are on those shows. They've all worked incredibly hard to earn their spots and keep their spots. And I feel like if I just kind of showed up and said, hey guys, I'm back, so one of you are going to have to, I don't want to be that guy. So I feel like when there's an opportunity again, when there's a chance, sure, I'd love to be back if you guys can have me. But right now I feel like AEW has got a good thing going. I don't think they need me. I think they need me. So I will, I'll make my return for New Japan instead for now.
I feel like AEW has got a good thing going. I don't think they need me. So I will make my return for New Japan Pro Wrestling. For the sake of not causing any controversy and to not ruffle anybody's feathers, because I know everybody in the community is very, very sensitive, I have one very important question to ask. If you have the likes of a talent such as Kenny Omega on your platform, and you ask, well, why not AEW, but instead New Japan Pro Wrestling? He just let Kenny Omega, Sapp just let Kenny Omega answer the question, and he didn't follow up with anything to combat or to divulge into his reason. The reason of, I don't think they need me, I feel like AEW has a good thing going. No, they don't. They don't. This is a propaganda piece. This is a fluff piece, basically to get Kenny Omega's name and everything that comes with it on the YouTube channel, on the platform, so people watch, people engage, people click, and people talk about it like I'm talking about it here. But this is ridiculous, how nobody pushes the envelope to ask follow-up questions. AEW's got a good thing going. No, they don't. They signed a $555 million TV deal with Warner Brothers Discovery, and every single metric that the company has, from ratings to interest to social media to engagement to live attendance, demos, every aspect of the company is significantly down year over year over year over the last 3 years, and it's trending downwards. They have a good thing going. In what way? They are creatively a fucking mess, probably the worst that they've ever been. And for you to go out there and not say anything about Kenny Omega regurgitating some bullshit line, oh, I don't think they need me. Of course they fucking need you. You're the last remaining heart and soul of this company because their vision and whatever they're producing on television is not what resembles the old AEW. When Kenny is there, we got some of that. When he's not there, I don't know what I'm watching. It's lifeless, it's soulless, and he is legitimately one of the shining beacons of whatever we loved about AEW. When he's on TV, we remember the good days. When he's on TV, we get that sense of feeling again. They want to push the narrative. Oh, we're back again. Oh, the feeling is back again. No, there's no fucking feeling. I feel nothing when I watch this show. Nothing. It's lifeless. It's soulless. There's no energy to anything that they do. And that's the reason you give me? Of course they fucking need you. Of course they need you. Now, I know why he said what he said. I know why he did this interview and said this to Sean Ross Sapp. The relationship between New Japan and AEW, fine. You want to build some nice bridge there between the companies and expand that partnership. They give, AEW takes. AEW takes and gives back to New Japan. It goes round and round. I get it. But this is one of the biggest stars in all of the company. If you want to tell me that Kenny Omega is the face of AEW, I would not argue that case at all. You should not allow the face of your company, who is legitimately the last shining beacon of whatever remained of the old AEW, to give us that feeling back. You should not allow him. If I was Tony Khan, I would never allow him to return after all these months. Return for New Japan Pro Wrestling, so it diminishes the return for AEW. If everybody watches Kenny Omega return in New Japan, how big of an impact is it going to be in AEW? Especially if they're playing into the, oh my God, the Elite's going to save AEW from Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. Who exactly is going to lead the charge there? It's going to be Kenny Omega. He's going to be the face of that entire storyline. He's going to be the one to take back the reins from Jon Moxley. That should be the first fucking appearance that we see of Kenny Omega, not wrestling fucking Gabe Kidd in a match nobody gives a shit about. I just find this all to be ass backwards. And correct me if I'm wrong, someone please chime in and say, no, JD, you might just be feeling that yourself. But I got a sense listening to this interview that the pauses and the hesitation coming off Kenny Omega, it's almost as if he did not want to answer the question. And I don't want to put my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat on, but if I was a betting man, I would say deep down in Kenny Omega's true heart, who loves professional wrestling, he sees exactly what's going on in AEW. He sees all the discourse online in regards to AEW. He sees all the decreased metrics and interest in the product. He sees the numbers come in every single week. He knows that it's a sinking ship over in AEW, and no matter what Tony Khan does, nothing is helping. And Kenny Omega probably feels at the end of the day, if he shows up over there, he's not going to make much of a difference either. So he's going to go and do what he wants to do. And he said, my heart is in New Japan Pro Wrestling. That is my home. Man, if that's not a slap in the face indirectly to what Tony Khan and AEW are producing, I don't know what the fuck is. This man legitimately called New Japan his home. And AEW is a promotion that he got started from the ground up. Does none of this seem weird to you? Kenny Omega even knows deep down in his heart of hearts that fucking show that company right now is in an absolute fucking disaster, and he doesn't want to go back there. He wants to give the opportunities all to the young kids and whoever's on TV right now. He knows he can't save that fucking place. So what's the sense of going back? He's going to go and do what he wants to do. There was just that weird, it was just an uncomfortable hesitation in his answers, man. He almost wanted to dance around the question and didn't want to answer it head on from Sap. And there was just this weird feeling about the hesitation he gave to answer that question. And then Sap doesn't follow up with it because he's not allowed to, and he won't poke the bear any more than he has to. He asked the question, which I appreciate, but there was no follow-up. I mean, they got a good thing going. They don't need me. I mean, there's no follow-up to those fucking ridiculous statements. They don't need you. They need you more than they could fucking ever fucking want to put out there. They need you. They won't admit it. Everything's great in AEW. Just like how they canceled AEW Collision on December 7th. Everything's great. Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, has announced that it will no longer host an upcoming AEW event. The arena slated to host the December 7th Collision, it's been canceled. The events page on the official Nationwide Arena website states the following: the AEW events originally scheduled for December 7th at the Nationwide Arena has been canceled. AEW still plans to broadcast the December 4th episode of Dynamite Live from Indianapolis at the Fishers Event Center. Although not confirmed, AEW will likely tape that week's Collision episode before or after Dynamite. In an update to that original report, the Greater Columbus Convention Center will now host the show on December 7th. I want you guys to look at the graphics that have been put up on the screen in this video for you right now. This is coming from AEW Ticket Map on X. Collision in Columbus, Ohio on December 7th. The setup is for 2,500 plus. 2,515 here, according to this tweet. At first count, they moved 940 tickets. This tweet was put out there on October 30th at 12 noon Eastern. If you want to look at the follow-up, look at this one. Only 1,030 tickets were moved out the door 6 days later. They put up a following tweet on November 6th at 1 p.m., and the tickets distributed only 6 days later are only 1,030 tickets. AEW, whether you want to believe it or not, is in some serious trouble. That is fucking embarrassing. I don't know how you look at that and say everything is great. Now, obviously, there were excuses galore as to why they canceled the show. Oh, AEW mistakenly put this show on December 7th and advertised this show for December 7th. Meanwhile, the Ohio State Buckeyes are playing a football game on that same date, and they may be in the Big 12 college football game on December 7th. First of all, we don't even know that. We don't even know if they're going to make the Big 12 game. They may make it, they may not make it. So why are we using that as an excuse? There is no other events on TV that night that would garner the interest of people outside of that potential game. So why are we using a maybe, a possibility, as an excuse for why there are low ticket sales for AEW Collision? There's low ticket sales all across the AEW board. They do no promotion. They do no PR. They go into all of their PR as far as pushing their shows in a very lackadaisical manner. Everybody has come to an understanding that Collision is nothing more than a fucking vanity project, a hangout for Tony Khan to put on his favorite toys on the spotlight on TV and just play pro wrestling every Saturday. There's no rhyme or reason why anything happens. There barely is any storyline progression coming off Collision, and it's nothing more than a fucking failure. I don't know how many times I need to tell you, AEW Collision has not been the same since Mr. Phil Brooks had got fired from the company. As soon as that show, which was made for him, was no longer for him, booked by him, just the overall aura of the show made for him, the show has gone downhill. There is legitimately no reason to watch AEW Collision, and fans have come to an understanding on this. It is not worth anyone's time at all. They don't promote anything ahead of time. They don't give you who's on the show. They don't promote matches for the show. They don't tell you who's going to be there, give you a reason to be there, give you a reason to come out and enjoy some pro wrestling. It's nothing more than a fucking PBS variety hour on Saturday night. I don't know what I'm going to get from one week to the next. It's completely different, randomized every single week. They give you nothing on Saturday night. Yet you want to sit there and tell me that everything's great. Oh, they're moving to a Comic-Con, I think the latest update was. They're moving to some sort of Comic-Con, a smaller venue in Columbus, Ohio on December 7th. Why wasn't that made the first time? Why do you think that you're able to play with the big boys and fill the big arenas when the numbers come in and everything is on the internet? It's not a secret. 1,000 fucking tickets in a venue that probably seats 15K? You don't find that to be a fucking embarrassment? No, they didn't move the show for any college football game. They didn't move the show for any sporting event. They didn't move the show for anything of that nature. They moved the show because they realized that nobody was interested in the dog shit that they were serving up on December 7th, and they had to, forced to, moved into a smaller venue. But please sit there and claim that everything is all right for AEW. It is certainly not all right for AEW. But that's not stopping them from bringing in talent. Speedball Mike Bailey is the latest to be headed to AEW. The word within TNA is that Speedball's deal expired on November 1st. He signed with TNA back in 2021, and his profile was removed from TNA's website this week. He's still on some flyers, but wasn't at the last set of tapings and filed for trademarks on his name this month. He finished up at the TNA Detroit tapings. Bailey is expected to get interest from a number of outside companies. He was backstage at AEW this summer, and at one point years ago, he had agreed to a WWE deal. Fightful Select had reported that Bailey's deal would be up towards the end of the year, which he confirmed in a recent interview. Bailey is still featured on some TNA flyers, but we have not heard of any plans for him to be on future shows. Multiple people say he was saying goodbyes in Detroit and gave a heartfelt thank you to the locker room. He will be in the Winston-Salem area at WrestleCade, where TNA has their next pay-per-view. Bailey is well-liked amongst everyone in wrestling and will have people pushing for him in both WWE and AEW. And in the latest update, as of last night from Fightful Select learned that Speedball Mike Bailey is expected to sign with AEW. Now, you could sit there and claim, sure, that's a great signing. It is a great signing. I mean, I'm not going to let Speedball Mike Bailey just sit on the independents or sit in free agency if I'm able to bring him into the company. I've called several Speedball matches. I've seen him work. He's tremendous. He's absolutely tremendous. Nobody's taking that away from him. His style certainly fits the AEW style. Everything he does in that ring, I mean, I could give you a laundry list of dream matches that would go over so well with the wrestling community within AEW. But the thing is, and I'm thinking logically from an outsider's point of view looking in, AEW has signed so many talents, and that roster continues to expand more and more and more every single month, every single year, and there's not enough TV time for everybody that is currently there right now. I get bringing in Speedball. I get bringing him into the AEW locker room, being that he's so well liked and so well respected. I get bringing his talents to TV. I understand it completely. And his style fits the company. I get it. No shit. But the thing is, you're constantly bringing in talent, and you can't even find creative for 80% of the roster that you got right now, with everybody crying, bitching, and complaining that they don't have opportunities that once were fruitful and bountiful in AEW. Those opportunities have gone right out the fucking window with this vanity project that Tony Khan is running, and every single free agent that's out there, he seemingly wants to bring in because this is where the best wrestle. How many talents right now coming in to this company, or have come into this company, have an opportunity lessened and lessened and lessened, and their spot move further down the ladder because he wants to bring in Adam Copeland, and he wants to bring in Will Ospreay, and he wants to bring in Okada, and he wants to bring in Speedball, and he wants to bring in Lashley, and he wants to bring in Shelton Benjamin, and God knows who the fuck else he wants to bring in. How many talents have had their opportunities cut out from underneath them because Tony Khan doesn't realize what he's doing is harming the roster? Meanwhile, he thinks he's helping the roster, harming the roster at the same time with everybody he brings in. Can't we find a spot for everybody that you have on TV right now? Seriously? You can't even fucking book the talent you got now. You're going to fucking book Mike Bailey? How long before he ends up on Rampage? It took Ricochet a month and a half, 2 months tops, to get to Rampage. And he's wrestling Dante Martin. Who gives a shit? How long before he's on Collision wrestling Commander in a match that's watched by 250,000 people? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Mike Bailey's not going to make a difference. Mike Bailey's not going to fucking change AEW's troubles and just change the company for the better. It's just another talent coming on in that's a great pro wrestler that will have his career stalled because Tony Khan doesn't know how to book talent. Can't wait for that hologram and Mike Speedball Bailey match on AEW Collision Saturday night, 2025. You know what's coming. You know what's coming. This is just another, hey, man, look, I have another toy I could put into the toy chest, man. When do we book him against on Collision against Hologram? When do we book him against the Beast Mortos? When do we book him against Commander? Maybe I'll put them in a fatal four-way. Great for Mike Bailey, man. Another guy who's being paid very well to wrestle for Tony Khan. And there's no rhyme or reason why he's there. Is he going to factor into major storylines? Is he going to be a big deal? Is he going to be a multi-time world champion? No, he's not going to make any difference on AEW television whatsoever. I'm grateful I get to see Mike Bailey wrestle, but I mean, at the end of the day, I want to see them used in a substantial way. I don't really see that happening. Do you? I know I don't. But here we are. Another talent coming on into AEW. And everybody else's opportunities who's begging for an opportunity, those opportunities seemingly never come. And WWE, they attempted to book the Hammerstein Ballroom following the success of the ECW Arena show, but AEW got in their way, and they are not allowed in the venue because it was too close to when AEW wanted to run the Hammerstein Ballroom. Now, WWE attempted to book the Hammerstein Ballroom, as previously reported on Beyond the Bell with Andrew Zarian and Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp. They noted that the promotion plans to return to the Hammerstein Ballroom with Ring of Honor on December 30th or December 20th. That's AEW Ring of Honor going into the Hammerstein Ballroom on December 20th, the same night as a House of Glory show in Jamaica, Queens, the last show of the year featuring the Hardy Boys. The promotion plans to run the venue on December 21 as well for an episode of AEW Collision. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that WWE attempted to book a date at the Hammerstein Ballroom to follow up the success of the 2300 Arena show that they just did in Philadelphia. However, the date that they wanted was close enough to the dates that AEW had booked. ECW held shows at the venue while operating before WWE held the 2005 and 2006 editions of One Night Stand pay-per-views in the same building. WWE wanted the Hammerstein Ballroom. That's great. Now, a lot of people tend to think I've been shitting on AEW lately, rightfully so, justifiably so. But the thing is, WWE is still very petty when it comes to anything AEW, and they will continue to be very petty. As long as they can continue to poke the knife in AEW's balloon, they will. They will. It hasn't popped yet, but WWE's hoping that it pops eventually. If WWE wanted the Hammerstein Ballroom, they could go and book the Hammerstein Ballroom whenever the fuck they want. Whenever they want. What's happening at the Hammerstein Ballroom? There's got to be ins to the Hammerstein Ballroom all year long. And you opt and want to book the Hammerstein Ballroom the same month as AEW. So clearly they got a wind of what AEW wanted to do. They got notice of AEW wanting to run the Hammerstein Ballroom. So WWE then threw their name into the hat. And they thought that, The people who run the Hammerstein Ballroom would probably take WWE over AEW because they're the hottest ticket in town and they're WWE and AEW's not. But clearly that's not the case. So AEW is now running the Hammerstein Ballroom for Final Battle, and they're running AEW Collision there on the next night, which is great. Hammerstein Ballroom is a fucking tremendous building. I love the Hammerstein Ballroom. I've been to the Hammerstein Ballroom for pro wrestling. It is a fantastic experience. And I'm glad to see that AEW is finally running the Hammerstein Ballroom. That Ring of Honor show should have a great feel around it. That Collision show should have a great feel around it. Those are the types of buildings that AEW should be running for AEW Collision. Any seat in the house is a great seat in the house. I'm glad they're running there, and that's great. It's got a lot of history behind it, and I'm excited to see what they do and what they produce in the Hammerstein Ballroom. I don't know how much the Hammerstein Ballroom is to book for an event that size, especially over 2 nights, but it can't be cheap, being that it's New York City and right in the center of downtown. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Final Battle is confirmed. That is happening on December 20th. Collision will be live there from the Hammerstein Ballroom on December 21st. And WWE apparently is also thinking of running the ECW Arena on a yearly basis. This is also from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Meltzer reported that nobody is taking credit for the idea within the company. It was stated that WWE plans to run the show, go a little way back and not specifically earmarked for the November 8th as they intended to run the arena. Meltzer wrote, "It's just an idea to do at some point." Then when they realized that they would be going head-to-head with AEW on 11/8, the decision was made to play that card on that night. Now there's talk of making it an annual thing, which makes sense when it comes to TV. Different locations that are unique are a good thing. So they want to make this ECW tribute thing a yearly thing. That's a mistake. Why do you want to do that? Nobody wants to see a yearly AEW tribute show. Let AEW rest, or ECW, rather. Let ECW rest in peace. Nobody wants to be. We'll probably end up getting an AEW tribute show at some point with the fucking mistakes that they're making and how fucking cold the product is right now. Nobody wants to see yearly ECW tribute shows. Nobody wants to see that. Let it die. If you want to run the 2300 Arena to give the NXT brand a different vibe in front of a great crowd and just run your typical NXT show, that's great. But you trying to piggyback off the nostalgia of ECW with that roster, half of them probably don't even know what the fuck ECW is. Why do you want to embarrass the ECW brand, and why do you want to embarrass the legacy of ECW by running a show, tribute show, with that roster that has nothing to do, no similarities, nothing that resonates with the old ECW? I don't get it. If you want to run the 2300 Arena, leave it at that and run your typical TV show there on Tuesday nights with no ECW theme behind it. But if you want to run an ECW theme show every fucking year, it already got old after the last one ended. It was terrible. They're not going to do better moving on and doing it year after year after year. It makes no sense to do it, and you're only going to end up embarrassing yourself. Just run your show weekly Tuesday. If you want a different vibe, a different building, that's great. Then run the 2300 Arena. But let ECW rest in peace. And I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. I would love to see NXT take the show on the road at least once a month. Different venues, like the ECW Arena, like we've seen in St. Louis for that debut 2-week stretch on the CW. That is a great move. Doing these theme shows to piggyback off nostalgia is not the right way to go. Thank you guys for all your support. I will be back tonight. It's going to be a very interesting night. I'm going to try something new, something that I don't usually do. We're going to do the SmackDown review and start off live with the SmackDown review. Jake Paul is boxing Mike Tyson tonight, and that's happening on Netflix. They probably won't hit the air until after 11 o'clock. I will still be live with the SmackDown review, but I think in the SmackDown review tonight, we'll probably be doing a live watch-along of the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul boxing match. I am interested in it as well, and I know the world is going to have eyes on this boxing match, and nobody's going to give a shit about what I have to say about SmackDown, so we'll probably all end up sharing it together. And then after the match is over, we'll talk about it. We'll go over it a little bit, and then we'll go right back to the SmackDown coverage and then call it a night. So it's going to be SmackDown review, live watch along of Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, and then SmackDown close out the review, and we'll call it a night. So that's what I'm planning on doing tonight. If you guys are interested in that, let me know down below. If you guys have anything to add on top of these stories, let me know down below and sound off in the comment section. Greatly helps out the algorithm side of things here on YouTube when you leave me a comment down below. Hit that thumbs up. Please, let's try for 1,000 likes on today's video. If you guys want to hit that subscribe button down below, I'd really appreciate it. And the next time, like I said, you see me live will be tonight for the SmackDown coverage right after the show is over, and we will probably integrate a live reaction watch-along to the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson boxing match airing live on Netflix this evening. Until then, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you tonight live for all the festivities right here on Off the Script.